Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Book Talk at Clarion on this rainy and cold San Francisco afternoon. I'm Irene Tsu, Director of Clarion Performing Arts Center. We're very excited to feature A Watercolor Dream, The Many Lives of Irene Tsu. Hello, Irene. It's an honor to have you here. Let me introduce our two moderators for this event, Cynthia Yi, Miss Chinatown 1967. Cynthia is also the Vice President of Clarion Performing Arts Center. And Rose Chung, Miss Chinatown 1981. Rose is the producer of Miss Asian Global Pageant and the co-founder of Imagine Talks, a women empowerment program. To start the program, let's watch a super sassy video clip by Irene's friend, Brett Bain. Here we go.
Hey guys, I want to introduce you to my dear friend, legendary film and TV actress, Irene Tsu. Born in Shanghai, she came to the U.S. as a teenager and starred with Jimmy Stewart in Take Her, She's Mine in 1963. 3 years later, she co-starred with Elvis in Paradise Hawaiian Style. She dated Old Blue Eyes Frank Sinatra in 1970. She's acted with Jeff Bridges and John Wayne and Doris Day. She appeared in Airport 1975 and Down and Out in Beverly Hills. She's guest starred in dozens of TV shows, The Wild Wild West, My Three Sons, Perry Mason, Hawaii Five-0, Mission Impossible, My Favorite Martian, The Rockford Files, and Star Trek Voyager. Just this year, she was in 2 Netflix projects, the Hilary Swank series Away, and in the animated movie Over the Moon. Irene has been in countless magazine articles and photo shoots. She's one of the most beautiful women of all time, and I'm proud to call her my friend.
You wanted me to, okay. Yeah, I have to tell you how I came upon Irene Tsu, okay? It was in 1961. I actually watched the pageant, and Irene was being crowned Miss Chinatown, USA. That was an inspiration for me to enter the contest in 1967. And of course, I met Irene much later, but I actually met Irene's sister because she was also a dancer of the Keigo Takeuchi Imperial Dancers, and that's our show. I was in the Dorothy Toy show, and actually our show followed Keigo's show. Wherever you went, we would open 2 weeks after. So it seemed like I really knew Irene way before, and meeting her sister. Her sister is a fantastic ballet dancer. And so thank you, Irene, for being here today.
Yeah, and I'm so delighted to take part in this book talk because my childhood dream as a kid has come full circle. I treasured viewing the Miss Chinatown souvenir program book to idolize my favorite queen. There is something about Irene Tsu's pose. And I would actually practice, in the mirror trying to pose like her. And I found out now that I can't because you know why? She has ballet toes. That's why she had that special, elegant pose there. So Irene became a movie star, and she was the most popular Asian girl in TV commercials. I remember her as that wiki girl in the Chevron Island commercials that was shown like 40 times a day. I think some of you will remember that. So let me just say that Irene is a trailblazing pioneer, acclaimed actress, and designer who has helped break barriers for Asian Americans in her long and storied career in Hollywood. As you know, she worked with legendary actors, and her most recent work include the animation movie Over the Moon and the film Away. Today, we have the pleasure of learning more details about her life in this short time. We will cover a few topics, including her family, being Miss Chinatown, Hollywood life, and her journey in the arts and spirituality.
Irene, could you explain to us and introduce your family here?
Well,
here you are.
Before I say anything, I just really want to thank you. I am so inspired by you guys. I'm so proud of us Chinese, actually, to put this together, and your dedication, inspiration, and all of us are not, teenagers, and we're able to still get this all together. And I just want to thank you all, really, to all of you, and was amazing. I would say just so amazing.
Yes, please share about your childhood now, Irene, about your life.
Oh, well, I was born in Shanghai and left when I was like 3 years old, and went to Taiwan, and then we relocated to Hong Kong. So I did spend my elementary school years in Hong Kong, and I was somehow inspired by a poster of a pair of red shoes. It was a ballet called the Red Shoes. I don't know whether it was a film or whatever, but I just looked at that poster, and every time I look at that poster, I just got like mesmerized with it, and I'm thinking like I would be able to get into those shoes and be a ballerina. And so, of course, I begged my mother to take me to a local ballet school. And interestingly, I have an aunt that was also a ballerina. She was, I don't know if she danced professionally or whatever. So on weekends, I would be taken to her house and got a little extra, practice. So that was like my dream. And then I won a scholarship to Sadler's Wells. At the time, it was called Sadler's Wells. I think that it's Royal Ballet, of England, UK. And so my teacher entered me into a contest through the Commonwealth, and I came in. I was the only one selected in the Commonwealth. I was so surprised, so shocked. So my father, of course, flew in from Taipei, and they took a meeting, and then I found out, or my father and mother found out, that this is no easy matter, because it's almost like you have to be an indentured servant to the Royal Ballet, because aside from doing your regular schoolwork, you have rehearsals, obviously 5 or 6 hours a day. You're going to eat what they tell you to eat, and you sleep whenever they tell you to sleep. It was very hardship. And after that, of 7 years of training, you have to be proportionally, like body wise, measure up to their corps de ballet. So you can see I was a scrawny kid of like 11 or something, and my father took a look at me and go, how is this little stick going to measure up to what ballerinas are supposed to look like? And so then and there he kind of nixed it. Of course, not only that, you have to work for the Royal Ballet for 7 years, almost like an indentured servant, So, and he thought, well, this is not going to work at all. And then and there, he just turned it down, or said no. And I was just crushed. My little heart was crushed. My first heartbreak. And when you're a kid, of course, your parents make the decisions for you. And so my path took a different route of coming to America. And at that time, we had applied. It was under a thing called the Refugee Relief Act. We were like almost political refugees from China, because China had turned to communism at that time. And so I just didn't know what to do. I got to go to study English 101 for foreigners. That's like the prime thing to do. When I got to school here, I think I was in 6th grade or something, just beginning to maybe enter middle school. I think that's what you call it. And so I never thought that I had a chance to dance.
So I'm just thinking that, your father stopped your ballet career, but you were able to expand in the arts another way. So it turned out that you were just a true artist at heart. So tell me other things about your family life as a child.
Well, my mother is an artist. She's a very accomplished artist. Not only does she do watercolor, oils, and Chinese painting, which is a whole different thing. And finally, I have to say that I put one of my mother's watercolors up, because they're in scrolls, if you know those Chinese painting, right? And so I grew up with art, and when we moved to New York from Hong Kong, I we went to live with her art teacher, art professor in China. And so in that apartment in New York, I was really surrounded with incredible artwork by these most famous Chinese painters, artists, because they had wanted to get the art out of China, for safety reasons.
Oh,
Yeah, so but I was like 12 years old, and of course, I was roller skating because it was a huge apartment in New York City, and I would be roller skating, and my mother would go, "Stop, stop, 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 stop!" I mean, like running into 5 panel gold, artists with lotus flowers on it. I mean, you see those paintings, they're famous Chinese artists and people that paint horses, specialize in horses.
Yes.
And yes, you know that. And one artist that does sansui, it means mountains and waters, with waterfalls coming down and stuff like that. They also, I grew up with just these incredible art, and also my mother's art teacher was practicing all the time, and he was very famous in um, painting a goldfish. That was his thing, and he practiced every day. My gosh, I mean, a lot of times I go into the wastebasket and pick out something that he threw away because I thought, oh, it was so good, and he threw that away. I mean, the little balls of paper I pick up. So I was surrounded by art, and I mean, I feel so embarrassed next to my mom because she studied, art in China, went to, and they were also teaching. She was a substitute teacher at very famous art school in Manhattan.
oh.
And
Oh,
so I,
so I would say that art was definitely your destiny then.
Yes,
Wow.
definitely. Look at all your mother's sisters here,
Oh yeah,
family.
can you tell us
yes.
about your aunts here? And
Oh, I have to tell you something. My mother was the first one to go, but there's three remaining sisters. One turned 101.
Oh,
Yes, in September, which is the
wow.
one in the middle with the white shirt is the
Uh-huh.
older sister. Of course, she passed. But the one next to her,
That's
it's Lord Jungda. Jungda is 101, and
wow.
next to her is Lorda. Lorda is I think she turned 99 in China. Because some relatives sent me a little video, and I was just amazed. And so somebody said that aggregately the one on the left hand side, the second one, she's number fifth aunt, Wuda. She is still must be like 90 years old, but aggregately they have 290 years between the three remaining sisters.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's just incredible. I and the number three sister that's 101 is just most amazing because she had lived through the most hardship of anybody. And if you can learn a lesson from that, I tell you what she does because she was her, you know, her just long story short, her husband was tortured and killed by the communists because he was a very famous scientist. I think there was 14 ranking scientists in China, and he was one of them. And she was in solitary confinement for almost a year. And when I visited her, she was in her 60s. She has a job. They gave her a job because she is still, a scientist. And I was wondering, I said, oh, do you take a bus to work and back? Was quite a long way. She said, oh, it's not so bad. It's 5 or 6 miles. But I don't take the bus. She says, I ride a bicycle. I was amazed. You know what I mean? It's like, so physical fitness is really important for longevity.
Yes, and I
yes.
think that you have the longevity gene too, Irene. So I think you have many more decades to go.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I mean, in God we trust. I mean, really, by the grace of God go I. Really, this
Yes.
None
sure.
of us
Yeah.
know. None of us know. We need to live in gratefulness. That's what it is. I mean,
And I think you do that well. So right now I'm going to move on to your Miss Chinatown experience.
oh my gosh, I love that. I love that because
The Miss Chinatown pageant was, a major event for Chinatown, in the days, and the title is recognized around the world. In the book, you said you joined the pageant because you were given the opportunity for a free trip to San Francisco. So,
right.
yeah. So, what aspect of winning the title impacted your life? And tell us about your Miss Chinatown experience.
It was just, it was just a fluke. I had already done Flower Drum Song as a dancer, and I went back to New York, I guess, to, my family lives there, to see my mom. I'm not close with my dad. I'm sorry to say, because he always lived in a different country than we do for some reason, and I went to Chinatown with my, couple few kids from school, and we just we would go bowling and then Chinatown, stuff like that. And there was a very very nice man. He always let us eat snacks, and let us look at magazines because he's not manning the store. He's always in the back room. So we were, very happy. That's one of our hangouts. So I and then he asked me one day, and he said, you want to go to San Francisco to be Miss Chinatown, and the pageant. And I said, I don't know. I mean, you have to ask my mom because I wasn't even quite 17 years old. And he said, oh, don't worry. Anybody I sponsor, my store sponsors, they won't ask any questions. So I said, okay, And so my mom had no idea what it is. And I said, Mom, I get a free trip, and I get a Chinese dress made with matching shoes. I mean, it was a big deal. So such a big deal, and I didn't even know that I was going to get. We all got those gold plaques. I mean,
Medallions, yeah.
medallions.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I
And
think I lost it.
what was your talent? What music did you dance to there?
Well, I, I am a dancer, so I just picked up some music and whatever it is and improvise. And the music went on for so long. I thought, my gosh, are they going to stop? Are they going to stop? I mean, I'm running out of steps to do. Uh, I mean, Cynthia is a dancer, I mean, you're going like, oh my gosh, I mean, what am I going to do? Slide on the floor on my knees, do the knee spin, get up, do whatever it was. So I did that. And the thing I remember the most was the question they asked me. And
yes.
huh?
What was the question?
Oh, the question was, oh, who do you admire most in the, in Chinese history? And I said, Fa Mulan, right? I just saw the
That was
movie. In fact, it's wonderful, Mulan,
Mulan.
and so it just came out of my mouth, and I got some applause. So I thought that I did well. People seem to have liked it, and it was a complete surprise. Uh, just a complete surprise. I had no idea because I was just so happy that to get all the a free trip around the world as part
So
of the.
tell us about your trip, Irene, the prize that you won. Can you tell us about your trip?
You mean the around the world trip?
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh! Well, it was on Pan Am. We used a Pan Am. One flies one way and two flies the other or something. So my first stop was I don't know. We stopped in Taiwan, and I was, friendly with my chaperone. He's a really nice guy that works for Pan Am, and he remained my lifelong friend until his passing. And he would say, I would say, saying that my grandmother, I didn't get to see her before she passed because she had a stroke in the U.S. consulate or something like that. We were all expecting her to, join us and to be with us. And I thought, oh my gosh, it would be so great if I could visit her grave. And somehow he said, well, it's really not out of our way very much. Let me ask the bus driver. And sure enough, he made that happen. And I was just, it was a very, very emotional moment. It was like, your grandmother you haven't seen for so many years, and on top of it, she passed away before coming to live with us. And I just gave some tip, I think, to the guard there, and then I just I gave him the name, and he pointed this way, and I just went the way that he pointed, and I just ran and ran and ran. I was such a crying, just like, then it was like a magnet. It just like I stopped right in front of her grave. And then I
Wow.
saw my mother's name, my father's name, and my sister's name and my name. And I just bawled. I mean, just like totally fell apart. And it was a really emotional moment. And I'm happy that, this trip allowed me to see my grandmother.
That
Uh,
is really that is really amazing how that Miss Chinatown had such a great impact, with your family, and to have this experience there. So you have a lot of stories, and now we're going to move on to an exciting part of it, your Hollywood life.
oh, yeah. Well, I got married, and this is Nancy Kwan on the right, and my daughter was uh, now this was her high school graduation. And these are some pictures of us. And
Is your daughter an actress too?
oh no, she's the farthest thing from that. She didn't even want to be in a school play. you know a quick story is that she was like in school, and I was like asking the teacher, I know, are you going to put her in something? I mean, did she did a good audition for you? He said she did nothing. I said, well, what do you mean she did nothing? Exactly what I said. She did nothing. And so I'm saying to her, then I kind of like, urged, and he thought, wow, I mean, a pushy stage mother, right? I was all of a sudden. So he said, well, I'll put her in something. And she was a tree. He put her in as a tree, in the background or backdrop or something.
That's
So,
classic, huh? Oh, let's look at these beautiful photos that we have of you during your Hollywood years.
uh,
Can we kind of scroll through them?
Sylvester Stallone. All right.
yeah,
Sylvester
Uncle John.
Stallone. Yeah. Oh, and Arthur Dong's a viewer here today too. So thanks for
Oh my gosh, he's my idol. He's helped me so much in the making of this book. And these are just stills from different movies.
that was a Doris Day. Yeah.
A movie,
Mhm.
yes. And this is the John Wayne movie, The Green Berets, and looking back, it was such an unpopular movie because we were the only, oh, there's Jeff Bridges. He's so young. We were so young. We were just so young.
Yeah,
But
and in the book too, you had smoked hashish with him.
we were in the plane riding. His father is very famous. As a TV star.
Yes.
The Bridge family, yeah.
Yeah, and there it is, Elvis.
Elvis. So tell us about Elvis, Irene.
There's nobody like the king. Okay, There's nobody since. That's why he is still. Elvis is just Elvis. There's nobody ever that looked like him.
Was he nice? Was he nice on set?
Yes, he was extremely, extremely nice and sweet. And I was, I had my first encounter with him when his face was like 12 inches from me, because I went in the dressing room because it was very hot, on location, and I just wanted to lay down for a while. I thought they're not getting to me anyway, so my air conditioning didn't work. So I had walked down the path to find some place that's cooler. And all of a sudden, a hand stopped me, like, a few inches from my chest. And I looked up and I go, oh my God, what happened? He said, no, wait a minute. You're going into Elvis's dressing area. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I had my air conditioning broke or something. So he said, stay there. Okay. I'll come back in a minute. Let me check with Elvis. So he did, and come right back. And then he ushered me into this big Queen's shack, or Queen's house, they call it. And he said, you can lay down in this room. There was a massage room. I mean, I was laying down on this massage table. And so he brought me some towel to, cover myself. I think I had that costume on. And And so he said, "Can I get you something or, water?" And I said, "No, no, no. I just really wanted to just sleep a little bit." So I passed out. And then the next thing, when I opened my eyes, there was Elvis's face like this to me, and I'm like, so he was putting like a cold compress on my head. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to say. So I just smiled. I mean, when you don't know what to say, you smile. I smiled a lot. I mean, I smiled my way through everything. Uh, so, uh, so he says, "Can I get you something?" I mean, anything you want. Okay. So then I remember that he smelled like Johnson's baby powder and milk. That was, I was thinking maybe like some kind of cologne or something, man wears, aftershave or whatever. But that's what he smelled like. I was just, because I was so close to him that, um, and I remember that and I put it in my book. So, well,
Well,
any,
I would say that was like a lifetime memory. I would love to have Elvis 12 just from
Yeah,
my
I
age
wouldn't
and have
mind
it
Elvis
smell like
waking me
Johnson's
up.
baby powder. Oh my God, and milk. Ooh, yeah. And then
uh,
yeah, and oh blue eyes. Let's tell us about Frank Sinatra.
oh yeah, everybody wants to know about Frank Sinatra, and he's just a real icon. There's nobody like Frank Sinatra. And I don't know. I just had the luck of meeting up with people like that. But when you mentioned uh that I was on TV like 40 times a day with the Chevron Island commercial, so he knew who I was when I met him. And I met him uh first time was in Miami. He was doing a movie there and I was doing my commercial. So my agent had called me, manager says, you should give Aaron Rosenberg a call, who was the producer of Caprice with Doris Day. He's such a nice guy, and it doesn't hurt to keep in contact. And I said, sure. So I called him, and he invited me to lunch, and it was like the next day or something. And I go, okay. So I thought that it was just me and him gonna have lunch. Well, when I got there, it was at the Fontainebleau Hotel. Okay, it's a really huge place in Florida, in Miami, and I see that there was a whole table full of people, 6 or 7 people there, and the only seat that was left open was right in front, directly across from Sinatra. And I was, I sit down, and I was just like, I didn't want to be caught staring. You know what I'm saying? Because again, he has a presence. People like Elvis or Sinatra or John Wayne, they have a big presence. So I, then I kind of like busy myself with the food. I just like stare down and eat my food, like, and I thought, well, this will be fun to tell as a little, to my friends. Oh, guess what? I had lunch with Frank Sinatra. And I didn't realize that this was the beginning only, because a few weeks later, back in LA, uh, I went to a club, a private little club in Beverly Hills, and I wanted to go to the ladies' room after a while, and this line there was just impossible. And I thought, my gosh, what in hell is going on there? They're never going to be able to get into the bathroom there, ladies' room there. And then I realized later that Francis was sitting in a corner booth with some friends of his. And so I went to the bathroom. I came back out, and wouldn't you know, he was sitting there with a few friends, and one of them is a TV star, and I happen to know him very well. Maybe I even worked together with him. And he says, "Come on, Irene, right? Just come by, say hello. Please sit down." So we all squished in, and then that's where I met him. The second time, and I thought, wow, this is really a coincidence. And I, uh, I talked a little bit, and he seems to be less edgy. He's kind of an edgy person. He never seems to be quite relaxed. I mean, in the first, when I first met him. So I didn't know, and I thought, well, that's great. So I went back to my table by the door. So we have the worst seat, of course, you know. So so I said to my friend, I said, wow, isn't that strange? I saw him like a few weeks ago, and then the next morning, next day, really, like I got a call from a very famous restaurateur in town that was like the most famous restaurant at that time, and he said, well, got his favorite table set up. Going to expect to see you here at 7:30. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, and I said, "What are you talking about? What? Who? What?" And he says that Sinatra made a reservation there. That's his favorite table. And wow, my gosh, I was, very much shocked, surprised, or whatever. I just went into a total, I didn't know what to say or do. But then I realized that he was talking about like the next day I'm going to have dinner. I mean, you know how us girls. I mean, I had nothing to wear, nothing to wear. I'm like, look through my closet, look through this, and this on that on. It's a dinner. Maybe I have to be in a dress or something. So I went shopping for a couple hours. Nothing happened. Came back to the house, and so I think I picked up just a regular black dress, that I have, and with a scarf or a belt or something. So that's what happened. So when I was there and we had dinner, we didn't have dinner. Oh my gosh! So what happened was like, Nikki says, be prompt because he's very, very punctual. So like, don't be late, okay? So at 7:05 or whatever it was, the phone rings, and guess what, baby? I guess he calls everybody baby, and I thought, what? He said, maybe you have heard, but I can't go back to my house because my divorce from Mia Farrow was just, announced or whatever it is, and the paparazzis are all over my house in Los Angeles. He said, but I want you to come down, to the desert for the weekend, or I don't even remember what he said. Something about because I didn't know anybody had a car phone in those days. We didn't have car phones, so let alone cell phones, nothing like that. Uh, so I thought I heard that it's something about the desert, this weekend, and that's just like 2 days away, So I was very, very torn. So of course I called my manager, my agent. I talked to him about everything. So I said, "What am I gonna do? What should I do?" He said, "Well, do you like him?" I said, "Yeah, I like him, of course, And, well, he's just like any other guy. If you like him, you can go there, have a good time, and if you don't, guess what? I'm gonna get you a plane ticket. I'm gonna wait for you at the airport. Okay?"
So I just want to say, so that was like the beginning of your more than 2 year romance with Francis
Right.
Sinatra.
We just had this one date that lasted the whole 2 years.
So I
And
want to ask you, just curious, like what did your parents think about you dating this superstar? They read it in the newspaper, in those movie magazines or something like that, or in the Hong Kong newspaper.
well, yeah, I guess they were more excited for me being Miss Chinatown. Actually, for once, I think my father even knew about it, and I think he was a little bit happy. But dating Sinatra, I mean, of course, my mom, loved his music. He was not of my generation already, Cynthia. I mean, I was listening more to the Beatles, the Mamas and the Papas, whatever the the music of that time. Maybe it was whatever it was, 69 or something, uh, 69, 70, and I was like. Not really that familiar with his music. I hate to say it, I just, Cynthia, right? We uh, grew up with
That's true,
different.
but you know what? That's a classic now. So, everyone, it's come back. Yeah, it's come full circle.
Okay.
People just love his music now. But you know what? I'm going to ask, because Sandy Wong, Miss Chinatown 1973, has a question. She wanted to ask you, like, in your entertainment career, were you ever discriminated against? And how did you handle stereotypical roles?
That's a very good question. And two things I was never encountered with is sexual harassment. Never. Okay. Maybe because I started when I was so young, and my agent like really protected me. And stereotypical, I was unintentionally crossed over. I played Hawaiians, Japanese, and we played Japanese a lot. I don't know why. And so I was, interestingly, this big producer who did Joy Luck Club, and she said, "You don't even play a lot of Chinese parts." I said, "Well, I just want to work. I mean, whatever job is offered me or up for, I try to work as much as possible." Uh, and most of the time, you're right because they were not written for Asian Chinese, but I happened to meet the director, and like Down and Out in Beverly Hills, it was a Jewish princess part. The name was Sheila Waldsberg, and so I was Sheila Waldsberg, and in this Hawaiian kind of they always thought that I was Hawaiian for whatever reason. So, well, the Hawaiians weren't too happy about it that they got to get an LA Chinese actress playing Hawaiians all the time. Well, it is what it is. I just want to work. That's what
You
it
know
is.
what? And it's really wonderful that up till today, you're still receiving roles and, playing different characters. And that's really amazing. And because you're really a integral part of Hollywood, and you're like the realtor to the actors as well. And you know that community well. Right now, I would like to go into like your artistic life because that's a major part of your journey. So you also were a fashion designer for 11 years,
Yeah,
and can you tell us about how you went into fashion designing by chance when you were filming a movie with David Niven and Toshiro Mifune?
that's right. I was actually somehow I was married at the time, and uh, you know somehow I got this part, and the other choice was an Israeli actress. So I played a Malaysian. This is a very famous model, Cheryl Cheese, and this Christmas catalog from Bergdorf Goodman really kind of launched my fashion design career, and I just went into it because, like I said, I grew up with a mother who's an artist, and when I went to do that movie, I had met these people that did this Nova Batika, they call it, the batik process.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's too well. I think they're going back to tie dye and going back. Everything is retro, and but I don't see much batik right now. But it's a process that you use wax to white out the areas you don't want the color, and then they dip it in the vats of dyes, and then that's why it comes kind of crackly and everything. And this is like hand painted silks, which I felt that it was a natural thing for me. I felt back into my mother's career. She was a textile designer in New York for years and years, and I was, knew her boss very well, the bosses, and I would sometimes go out and hang out in their studio, and I see what they do because at that time they didn't have computer or whatever. You know what I mean? They had to draw it out piece by piece, just like how they used to do the animation. Not you know now
Yeah.
it's very different. Although Over the Moon, that
I
direct.
want to, well, I want to add that not only was Cheryl Teague one of your models, actually Demi Moore modeled for you too.
Yes, it was really, again, life is, that's why you have to stay a watercolor dream because your path may take you in all different directions and you just more or less have to go with the flow. I was always short of models and we're very, have a very badly a budget. So I would reach out to, people I know who may introduce me to a model or two. And there was guy who's a hairdresser, in next door to my little studio. And he says, well, I know this gal, Demi Moore. She's just signed with Casablanca or whatever, modeling agency, but I don't think she's that busy. And let me ask her, because I do her hair. So, I said, oh, okay, because that was before she was Demi Moore. And I said, sure. I mean, I could use anybody. And that's how I ended up having Demi Moore. I paid her $100, you know.
Do you remember
Yeah.
coming up for the Miss Chinatown fashion show to show some of your fashions? I remember being a model, and I think Rose Chung was also a model. Do you
Oh,
remember,
yeah.
Rose?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Yeah, just I did that for like almost 11 years. I loved it. It was an incredible journey. I found that to be the most creative part of my life because, as you know, being an actress, you have to follow the script. You didn't really
Mhm.
write the script, and uh, in whereas in this fashion thing, I mean, I really had to do from scratch, because I did not have a formal fashion designer background, so I didn't know a lot of the technical things, which I was just learning as we go along. Uh, I'm kind of that kind of person. I'm a quick learner and just like pick up things. But I have an idea. I have a vision. I know what I wanted, what direction I wanted to go. Like
So well, let's go ahead and move on now because about your watercolor life and
okay,
your
okay.
yeah.
Well, the one on the left is behind me. It was my first watercolor, and this again was, the director Caprice. He is a very good artist. I didn't even know, and I also didn't know that he was a cartoonist. He was brought out here by Disney to do the very first animation. Everything. I think he's from New Jersey or somewhere in the East Coast, and he would say that he somehow he casted me into the part of Ray Walston's secretary. It was not written as an Asian part. And then I told him about my watercolor. I grew up with a mom that did watercolor, and I thought she was fantastic. I love her, and uh, no, and he says, "Well, I mean, I don't want to go into the details, but apparently his wife left him, who was an aspiring opera star, and he was absolutely devastated. He said, in fact, I've been just painting every day, anything, everything, anything. And I got the easel set up and in front of the pool, and then I just jump into the pool and I feel I need a little bath or something. I said, oh, okay, you know. So on the left was my mother's influence because that was then more of the Chinese style of that you dip the uh, color, into the brush. Sometimes you could have like two or three different colors and just one stroke, quite different than Western kind of watercolor. To me, the one on the left is a true watercolor. And I don't know what I sent you, but the one on the right was, you know, yeah, the one on the right was something that I painted, and I don't know. I mean, I'm learning, and that's what I want to do now is go back to painting because I really feel like I want to paint now. I really want to paint, but as you see how tiny my office is, I couldn't really, uh, have much room for that. And so
These are
eventually, I hope to
beautiful.
have a real art studio. I think in the back of me, the one on the far left, is another watercolor. It's a collage. I also use fabric and things that to put on the watercolor because watercolor is very difficult to give it the volume and the depth.
Oh,
It's not like oil that you can keep going over and over and over it. But with watercolor, you really have to. have the first stroke determines where you're going to go with it. And, sometimes, I mean, I did that a long time ago, this Statue of Liberty. And interestingly, it's kind of happening now with our country.
Mhm.
So I really want to stop painting again, and I feel that that's what I want to do the rest of my life, painting, and maybe writing a little bit. I'm always writing, treatments for TV and stuff like that. I just had the idea. I'm not a screenwriter by any means, uh, but just I have some story ideas that I put down and register it and see where it goes.
Okay, so this is our last image of your watercolor. So go ahead and share that. And I want to ask you too, you've been doing yoga for 40 years. In
Yes,
fact,
over 40 years. Yeah.
yeah, and you will work with Bikram before he became a rock star. So
Yeah.
share your spiritual journey with yoga. So there you are in the book too. So you're in his book. You knew him very well.
Yes, I knew him very well, and I've been doing yoga. I was, I think, I just by accident, I was in a party and with my husband, and there was a very kind of, statuesque a woman was doing all these poses, and I said, "What is that?" Because I was a dancer, and as you know, you kind of injure yourself as a dancer after a while. You go, gosh, I don't know, my dancing days are really gone. My knee is busted or just some, stuff like that. But I wanted to find a form of physical fitness uh, that I can do the rest of my life. And so she was doing all these postures and she told me Bikram yoga. And she couldn't stop talking about it and kept talking about blah, 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 blah. And, I still know her this day. She's in her 80s and she's in incredible shape.
Wow.
And one of my yoga masters is in her 90s and she is teaching till about 3 years ago. So this is definitely something that you can do, except that, of course, I do yoga and my daughter hates yoga. Whatever it is that I do, she doesn't want to. Not going to be an actress and not going to be a uh, yoga person either. Well, she's more into track. She's very, very inflexible. But she's very strong, and she's built like a track kind of person.
So are you still carrying on classes now as a certified yoga instructor?
Yes, in fact, I just started 3 months ago a modified Bikram yoga at the beach every week, and we were doing great until the weather turned so cold. And last Thursday, I'm happy to say that I had it at my home. I have a small deck. I mean, it certainly will fit 6 or 7 people, and we want to be socially distanced. So it worked out fine. So we're doing yoga at home, and I hope that I will have a couple more classes before I head up to San Francisco.
Okay. Well, you know what? Time really flies, and been learning so much about you, and there are so much more tidbits, and you can learn all those tales in Irene's book. Her encounters with Hollywood stars, including like Bruce Lee, your Hollywood neighbors, and these serendipitous events that are your spiritual journey of a watercolor life. So it's truly something out of a dream. And I know that our viewers will enjoy reading about them as much as I did. So Irene, do you want to say a little bit more about your book?
Yeah, you know what? That's why the publishers fast tracked it to come out because he figures that people are doing more reading, because well, we can't really go anywhere, and so he fast tracked it out, and I was pleasantly or whatever surprised because there was not a published date yet earlier in the year, and so this year is like a lost year. I don't even know what day it is anymore. So
Yeah, that's true.
and he saw that it was a fast and fast read. It's something that people can enjoy. It's not a literature by any means. It was just about my
No,
life.
but if you love Hollywood, you'll love reading this book. And you can get it on Amazon as well. So,
Yep.
yeah. So here are the stories about Irene, and you know her because you watched her here. So
Thank you everyone for attending today's book talk. I hope you are all inspired and energized by Irene's incredible life journey. Thank you, Irene Tsu, Rose Chung, and Cynthia Yi for an engaging presentation. A big thank you to Ruby Fong for putting together the photo slideshow and doing tech. Have a good afternoon, happy holidays, stay safe and healthy. I'm Clara Sue. See you next time.